Have you ever sat quietly and wondered, when did things start to feel different between us? Not because of a big argument or some major event, but just a slow shift. A kind of silence that moved in quietly. A distance that didn't come from miles apart, but from right there in your own home. If you've felt that, you're not alone. And you're not imagining things either. Sometimes, love doesn't leave with loud words or slammed doors. It just gets quieter. The little things that used to feel warm, like asking how your day went, or sitting together over coffee, begin to fade. And before you know it, you feel like you're living next to someone, not with them. That's the kind of change we're talking about today. The subtle kind. The kind that sneaks in when no one's looking. In this video, we're going to talk about something that matters deeply, especially in our later years: how to recognize the quiet signs that someone may have stopped loving you the way they once did. Not in a way that's meant to scare you, or make you feel hopeless. But in a way that gives you clarity. Because when you can see clearly, you can decide what you want to do next, with honesty, and with strength. Now, before we dive in, I'd love to know, where are you tuning in from? Comment below and share your city. I always enjoy hearing from you. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more tips like these. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming up next. Point 1. They stop being curious about your life. One of the first signs that love might be fading is when someone stops being curious about you. And I don't mean asking big questions. I'm talking about the small, everyday kind of curiosity, the kind that shows they're still emotionally connected to you. The kind where they want to know how you slept, what you had for lunch, or what the doctor said after your appointment. When someone cares, they ask, even about the little things. But when love starts to drift, those small questions fade. You start to notice that they don't look up when you talk. They don't ask how your day went. They don't follow up when you tell them something important. Maybe you mention your knee has been hurting again, and they just nod and say nothing. Or maybe you share something that used to get a smile or a laugh, and now it's met with silence or a distracted, "That's nice." It's not always because they're too busy. It's not always because they're tired. Sometimes, it's because they've stopped leaning into your world. They're still physically there, yes, but emotionally, they're somewhere else. And that shift, no matter how small it seems, can be deeply painful. It's especially hard when you've spent years, maybe even decades, sharing your life with this person. You've built routines together. You've talked over coffee, taken walks, maybe watched your favorite shows side by side. But now, it's like your stories don't land. Like your voice doesn't reach them the way it used to. And here and #39s something important to remember: you are not boring. Your stories are not too much. You haven't done anything wrong. When someone stops being curious about you, it's not a reflection of your worth. It's a sign that they may no longer feel emotionally invested. That doesn't mean they don't care at all, it just means something in their heart has shifted. If you've started to feel like a background character in your own relationship, if your words float out and never seem to land, then it's okay to ask yourself, when did they stop being interested in me? And more importantly, when did I stop feeling seen? Because curiosity is one of the quietest ways love speaks, and when it's gone, the silence speaks louder than words. Point 2. Their patience starts to wear thin. When someone's love begins to fade, one of the first things you'll notice is that their patience starts to shrink. Things that never used to bother them suddenly seem to get under their skin. Where they once had room for your little quirks or forgetfulness, now they seem irritated or short with you. And the hardest part? It often comes out of nowhere. Maybe you ask a question about how to use the TV remote, or you forget something you already mentioned. Before, they might have smiled, maybe even joked gently while helping you out. But now, you're met with a sigh, or a cold tone, or worse, a look that says, "Why are you bothering me with this?" It's subtle, but it stings. This kind of change can leave you second-guessing yourself. You might start to wonder, am I being annoying? Am I asking too much? But the truth is, you're not doing anything wrong. You're just asking for the same understanding you always did. The difference is, they're no longer offering it the way they used to. Let's be honest, patience is a kind of kindness. It's how we show love in the everyday moments. It's how we say, "You matter to me," even when things aren't perfect. So when someone you care about stops offering that patience, it doesn't just feel frustrating, it feels like you're losing a piece of the relationship that once made you feel safe and accepted. For some people, this shift shows up in silence. For others, it's little remarks under their breath, or an eye roll you weren't supposed to see. And while it may seem small at first, over time, it builds. It makes you feel like you have to walk on eggshells. Like you have to be extra careful, just to keep the peace. But here's something I want you to remember: love doesn't make you feel like a burden. Real love still holds space for you, even on the hard days. If someone can no longer offer you the same grace they once did, it's not about you being too much. It's about them pulling back. So if you've noticed that you're being met with sharpness instead of softness, or silence instead of support, don't ignore that. It might not be about a bad mood. It might be something deeper. The quiet fading of love that used to show itself through patience, and now shows itself through distance. Point 3. Time together becomes less important. When someone's love starts to fade, it often shows up in how they spend their time, or more specifically, how they don't spend it with you anymore. Not in a loud or obvious way. In fact, they might still live under the same roof, eat the same meals, or sit in the same room. But the shared time, the real time, that part begins to disappear. At one point, you probably had little routines that made life feel connected. Maybe you watched a show together after dinner, took a walk in the evenings, or just sat quietly at the table with your morning coffee. It didn't have to be anything fancy, it was just being together that mattered. But now, you're finding yourself sitting alone more often, or watching them drift off into another room without asking if you want to come along. They start going to bed earlier, or later. They run errands without inviting you. They make plans without checking if you'd like to join. And when you do suggest something, like a drive, a movie night, or even just sitting outside together, you're met with a shrug, or maybe later, or "I'm tired." You might brush it off at first. After all, we all need space from time to time. But when that space keeps growing, when the time apart becomes the new normal, that's when it starts to hurt. Time is one of the clearest ways we show love. When someone loves you, they make room for you in their day, not out of obligation, but because they want to. They want to be near you, even if you're just sitting in silence. But when that love begins to fade, their desire to spend time with you fades too. It's not just about being busy. It's about no longer choosing you in the quiet moments. And here's the part that can really weigh heavy: they may not say anything. They may not even realize they're pulling away. But you feel it. In the mornings you spend alone. In the shows you now watch by yourself. In the way the house feels bigger, even though nothing's changed but the closeness. If you've started to feel like your presence doesn't matter anymore, like the time you used to share has been quietly taken away, it's okay to name that feeling. Because when someone loves you, they make time for you. And when that love starts to fade, it often disappears one moment at a time. Point 4. They stop letting you in emotionally. There comes a time in some relationships where the words are still there, but the meaning behind them is gone. You talk, sure. You might ask how their day was, or what they want for dinner. And they answer. But something feels different, hollow, almost like the emotional door that used to be wide open is now barely cracked. You can feel it when someone stops letting you into their inner world. They no longer share what's really going on inside. You don't hear about their worries, their thoughts, their quiet struggles. Maybe they used to tell you everything, what annoyed them at work, how they were feeling about a family situation, even the silly little things that crossed their mind. But now, it's just short answers. Or a quiet, "I'm fine," when you know they're not. At first, you might not even notice the change. Life can be busy. Days go by. But slowly, you start to realize, they're not talking to me the way they used to. You feel like you've been left out of the loop, not just about events, but about feelings. The connection that once felt safe and open is now guarded. And worse, when you try to ask what's wrong, they brush it off. They say you wouldn't understand. Or they change the subject. That hurts. Because you're not just looking for updates. You're looking for closeness. And when that closeness disappears, it can feel like you're being shut out of your own relationship. And here's something a lot of people don't talk about: being emotionally shut out can feel just as painful, if not more, than physical distance. Because it's quiet. There's no argument. No big reason. Just a growing sense that you're no longer the person they turn to when life feels heavy. They might still be polite. They might still sit beside you. But they're not with you in the same way. If you're feeling this, if you've noticed that emotional distance, it's not because you did something wrong. It's not because you're difficult or hard to talk to. Sometimes people just start to turn inward, and they stop bringing you along. And that's a sign of love changing, because love, real love, keeps letting you in. Even when things are hard. Especially when things are hard. So if their silence feels heavier than words, if their eyes seem to look past you instead of toward you, pay attention. Emotional closeness doesn't disappear overnight, it fades step by step. But you deserve to be let in. You deserve to still be someone they turn to, not someone they turn away from. Point 5. The physical connection grows cold. When emotional distance settles into a relationship, the body often starts to speak for the heart. It's not always sudden, and it's rarely dramatic. But over time, you start to feel it. The little touches go missing. The warmth fades from their gestures. And the closeness that used to feel so natural now feels awkward, or even absent. You notice they stop reaching for your hand. There are fewer hugs. No more small kisses before bed, or arms around your shoulders while you sit on the porch. They don't sit close anymore, or they shift away when you lean in. Maybe they turn their back to you in bed or quietly pull away when you touch their arm. These things may sound small, but when they've been part of your everyday life for years, their absence can feel like a deep silence. For so many older couples, physical affection is not about passion or romance. It's about presence, comfort, a quiet kind of reassurance that says, I still care. I'm still here. That's why it hurts so much when those gestures disappear. It's not just about missing a touch, it's about feeling emotionally forgotten. And often, you start to doubt yourself. You wonder, did I do something wrong? Have I changed? Am I asking for too much? But it's not about you changing, it's about how they've started to drift away, both emotionally and physically. And the body reflects that. It's not about anger. It's not about conflict. It's about absence. One of the hardest parts is that it doesn't always come with words. They don't say they've pulled back. They just do. And then you're left with questions, wondering if you should say something, or just let it go. But deep down, you know what's happening. You feel it in the way your hug doesn't get returned. In the way their eyes no longer meet yours when you speak. In the way the couch feels a little colder at night. Physical closeness doesn't just disappear for no reason. It fades when connection fades. And if you're feeling that loss, it's okay to admit it. It's okay to grieve the absence of something so simple, yet so important. Because you deserve to be touched with kindness. To be held, even in the small ways. Real love doesn't stop reaching for you. It doesn't forget to sit beside you. It doesn't flinch at your presence. When that starts happening, it's a sign that something deeper has shifted. And while it's painful to notice, it's even more painful to pretend it isn't there. Now that we've walked through these 5 quiet signs, I want you to take a moment, just for yourself, and breathe. Let what you've heard settle in your heart. Maybe one of these signs felt familiar. Maybe all of them did. Either way, this conversation isn't about blame. It's not about labeling someone as the bad guy or pointing fingers. It's about honoring what you felt but maybe haven't had the words for. Because when love starts to fade, it rarely happens all at once. It slips away in small pieces, through silence, distance, and the little things that used to make you feel close. And many times, we sense it before we understand it. We feel a shift, but we don't want to believe it. So we make excuses. We stay quiet. We try harder. But the truth is, emotional distance leaves clues. And those clues are worth paying attention to. You deserve to be seen. To be heard. To be loved in a way that feels consistent and real, not just remembered on birthdays or during family gatherings. Love in your later years should feel like comfort, not confusion. It should bring peace, not leave you walking on eggshells. This isn't about giving up on someone. It's about getting honest with yourself. Asking, do I still feel connected? Do I still feel chosen? Or have I started to feel like a visitor in my own relationship? These are hard questions, but they're the right ones. And they can lead to healing. Whether that means rebuilding something that's been lost, or finally letting go of the pressure to keep carrying something that's no longer mutual. And remember this, love doesn't have to be loud to be real. But when it disappears, even quietly, you have every right to notice. And to respond, not with fear, but with self-respect. If this video helped put words to something you've been feeling, we'd truly love to hear from you. Leave a comment and share one thing that stood out to you. Maybe it was a specific sign. Or maybe it was just the comfort of knowing someone else understands. Your story matters. Your peace matters. And you are never alone in trying to make sense of what love feels like, especially when it changes. Thank you for spending this time with us. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear it too. We'll be right here with more stories, insights, and heart-to-heart moments that help you feel a little more seen. Until next time, take care of your heart. It's been through a lot, and it still deserves softness.